About 6 years ago, Kia introduced an all-new, affordable, efficient, electrified hatchback called the Niro. Now, at the time, the Niro was designed to compete with competitors like the Toyota Prius and the Chevrolet Volt. And since then, the segment has obviously changed, so it was time for Kia to introduce an all-new second generation. Now, as you can see, this week, I'm actually outside of Encinitas, California, with the all-new 2023 Niro. It rides on an all-new N3 architecture. It's available once again in 3 different flavors, a hybrid and a plug-in hybrid like this model here. And Kia says this new generation is larger, more powerful, more efficient, and it offers far more technology versus the previous generation. So if you guys have always had your eye on an efficient, economy-minded hatchback and you want something that offers a choice of different technology and powertrains, how does the all-new 2023 Niro stack up? Stay tuned to find out. So just like the previous generation, Kia is going to offer the new Niro in 3 different flavors, a hybrid, a plug-in hybrid, and a full electric model called the Niro EV. This video is going to focus primarily on the hybrid and the plug-in hybrid. If you want to see my take on the full EV, be sure to click in the link in the description below. We did a separate video for just the electric model. However, let's go ahead and dive into what powers the hybrid versions. Now, this one here being the plug-in hybrid shares the same 1.6-liter gasoline direct injection Smart Stream naturally aspirated 4-cylinder. It develops around 104 horsepower on its own. The plug-in hybrid is augmented or supplemented by a 62 kilowatt electric motor. The regular hybrid has a 32 kilowatt electric motor, so this one here is going to have more power. That model has around 139 combined horsepower. This one here has 180, so that's an increase of 41 horsepower, and that's also a 41 horsepower increase over the previous generation plug-in, which had actually the same horsepower as the regular hybrid. So I like to see the fact that Kia has improved the power on the plug-in hybrid. The output of that model is the same as last year. Both models have around 195 foot-pounds of torque, which again, that torque figure is going to get this vehicle feeling very peppy in day-to-day driving. Both of them also use a 6-speed dual clutch transmission. That's right, as opposed to a CVT, Kia still uses a dual clutch. They do that for performance and for enthusiastic driving. We'll talk about that later on in the driving scene. Now, another big difference with the PHEV is this one model here has a much larger battery pack. That car has a 1.32 kilowatt hour battery pack. This one here is 11.1. That's an increase from 8.9 in the previous generation. That allows you to go around 33 miles on a full charge, which is an improvement of around 25% compared to 26 miles in the previous generation. Fuel economy, that model there, Kia says, gets best-in-class gas mileage at 53 mpg in the city, 45 highway. If you guys go for the 18-inch wheels, like this model here, go to the 16-inch wheels and the highway number improves to 54 mpg. So that's a big jump. This model here, if you drive it, it's just a hybrid. You don't plug it in. It'll get around 48 mpg combined. Kia says it'll do 108 mpg E, which that number is if you combine it with electric-only driving. That means you'd have to plug the vehicle in. Both cars are not rated to tow anything, and 0 to 60 time should be between 10.5 to around 8.5 seconds. We'll test out both when we get these cars out on the road. And curb weight is going to range from around 3,200 pounds for that model to around 3,500 pounds for the plug-in hybrid version. I do want to also show you guys the charge port door, which you're going to find it over here on the the driver's side fender. Open that up, you can see it's got the J1772 plug and no DC fast charging capability because this is just a plug-in hybrid. The full electric model will have that. It has around a 2.2 kilowatt onboard charger, so you can charge this vehicle from 0 to 100% in roughly 3 hours if you can find a level 2 charger, which most of you may have at your home, or it'll take around 12 hours to do if you guys are on a standard 110. But let's go ahead and talk about the styling of the all-new Niro. Now you can see the plug-in hybrid model and the hybrid look pretty much the same on the exterior. This has Kia's newest design philosophy of opposites united. It's got their corporate signature tiger nose grille. You can see the grille has definitely changed over the years. It kind of extends over the headlights now. This area here actually has functional vents on the grille. If you guys look at the electric model, they actually get rid of the openings in the grille. The headlights, you can see, have been improved in the fact that Kia now has LED headlights on most models, along with LED daytime running lights, LED turn signals. You also have LED fog lights, which are cleverly integrated into these little rectangular slots in the lower front fascia. And then there's some silver trim pieces here that try to make this, again, look a little bit more like a crossover, along with the new Kia logo there. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of the styling of this car. I think it definitely stands out. It looks a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more masculine and modern compared to the kind of economy car looks of the previous generation. Coming around the side, you're gonna also notice that this car has gotten a little bit larger. It rides on the N3 architecture, which is the first Kia to ride on that platform. Its wheelbase has been stretched by about an inch. It's about a half an inch taller, and it's about 174 inches long. It's about 2.5 inches longer. That's gonna give us more space on the inside and more space in the trunk. Now looking at the wheels, you can see this model here, both of them are SX models with the touring package. That's gonna throw in these 18-inch wheels, which definitely look good. A lot of electrified cars have these really hideous aerodynamic wheels. Not so with the Niro. You can see it's riding on 225/45 R18 Continental Conti Pro Contact all-season tires. And this car has roughly 6.3 inches of ground clearance. So it doesn't really have the ground clearance of a crossover. Kia likes to call this a crossover, but all-wheel drive is still not available. These cars are only front-wheel drive, even the fully electric model. Now this touring version, you can see, has these really nicely integrated turn signal mirrors. You have some chrome trim along the belt line. Along the door handles, you have these really sleek, black painted aerodynamic roof rails with a standard sunroof. That's going to be included on these higher trims. Kia does not offer a pano roof on the Niro, which is something that I would have liked to see, but remember, this is supposed to be the least expensive vehicle in Kia's electrified lineup. The one thing you're going to notice over here is also the Aero blade, which you can get in several different paint colors. This model here you can see is black, kind of with this mineral blue. It's definitely a nice look. You can also get this painted one color. It actually has functional openings that have an air opening here that allow air to pass through. Kia says this has like a 0.29 coefficient of drag, which again is helping with the aerodynamics, improving the fuel efficiency and all that stuff. Looking at the rear, definitely a distinctive look back here. The taillights have this kind of boomerang shape. It's full LED taillight design with an LED turn signal, which is nice. You have LED reverse lights. There's a PHEV badge here, along with these well-integrated parking sensors back here, the new Kia logo. Overall, it's very clean. It almost has kind of like almost like a Peugeot look to the rear, or maybe even some Volvo design cues. Now, looking at the trunk capacity, a power liftgate is a new feature this year. You could never get that before on Niros before. And the plug-in hybrid model is actually the model that has the least amount of trunk space. This has just under 23 cubic feet of space with the second row seats up. If you fold that down, it expands the space to around 53 cubic feet. Now, this is about 10 cubic feet less versus the hybrid and the electric model, and I suspect it's because the battery pack lives underneath this floor. And if I lift this up here, you can see it has a little bit more, or a little bit less space here because of the battery pack that Kia has decided to put in the back here. So overall, the trunk space is good. Let me actually show you the trunk space of the regular hybrid so you guys compare. To be honest, seeing the two side by side, this is with our stuff in it, it looks practically the same. Kia says this has 63 cubic feet of space with the seats down, but if you look underneath here, you can see much larger underfloor storage area, and that's gonna really help for those of you who are using this as a more practical type vehicle. So let's go ahead and talk about the interior of the redesigned 2023 Niro. Now this particular one that I'm sitting in is the plug-in hybrid model. It has that mineral blue exterior with this kind of grayish black, almost graphite interior. The seats themselves are made from eucalyptus leaves. They're made with recyclable materials. These are essentially vegan leather seats, so it's a fake leather with this kind of interesting texture that almost looks like jeans. The seats themselves are also heated and ventilated. Manual passenger seat over here, and then the driver gets an 8-way power with 4-way lumbar and 2-person memory, which is nice. Now, getting in and shutting the door has a nice solid sounding thunk. Remember, this is built on the new N3 architecture. Now, here's the key fob for the vehicle. You can see this is Kia's new detonator style key that they introduced on the Stinger a few years ago. It has the usual lock, unlock, panic, power liftgate, and then there's also a remote start function. I was in the electric model earlier and it had their smart park feature, which it doesn't have on this model here, but start stop button is down here right by the shifter. Turn the vehicle on, you can hear it's got Kia's latest chime, and then most Niro models are going to have the twin 10.5 inch or 10.25 inch displays. This is their latest infotainment system. You can see it's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. However, if you want wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, you have to actually buy the base trim with the smaller 8-inch display. The larger screen here still uses a wired connection for CarPlay. I know Kia and Hyundai and Genesis are still working on that. They've heard the complaints, but sadly still have to actually plug in your phone via a wired connection to get the CarPlay. But you can see here, the new displays certainly look nice. There's a 12.3-inch display here. This digital display does change slightly when you change the drive mode. There's an eco and a sport mode between either green or a red color. I don't particularly love how the TAC is a digital display. I think that they should give us the option to change that to be a traditional look, but that's kind of like my personal preference. But let's go ahead and talk about the materials, because a lot of the materials in here, again, are sustainable. The headliner is made from like recycled wallpaper. The door panels here, you can see, have a soft touch injection molded plastic. A lot of the painted stuff here in the interior, the painted trim, is free of those BTX chemicals. Soft touch here, you have an aluminum or silver accented door handle here. Window controls, one touch for the front windows. The rear, however, are not one touch. You have electrically folding mirrors, which is definitely nice, 2-person memory seats. And some of the controls, they feel pretty tactile, but they don't quite have that satisfying high quality feel in some of the bigger Kias, but that's okay. This is supposed to be their least expensive model. Now, looking at the dashboard, you can see interesting textured material here on the upper part of the dash, where this is a soft touch injection molded plastic. A lot of piano black plastic trim over here. And then this over here is a really interesting texture for the hard touch plastic material. There's kind of like this weird pattern here that almost looks like the material has like these like dents in them. It's not really my particular favorite, but remember, everything's to a certain price point. Now the steering wheel, this was lifted directly off of the EV6, and I like the steering wheel. It's a 2-spoke design. It's got paddles on the wheel. Remember, this has actually stepped gears for the transmission. And then you can see here, manual tilt and telescoping, which is definitely nice. The horn sounds decent. It has a pretty, I think, appropriate sound. It doesn't sound puny like in some other small hatchbacks, so that's something to keep in mind. The center stack over here, you can see, has your wireless phone charging pad. You have 2 USB charging ports over there. And then the shifter here, you can see on the PHEV, this is the same electronic shifter that you get on the electric model. So put the vehicle to reverse, you can see there's your backup camera with the trajectory, the parking sensors, no top-down full 360 camera. Kick it over to the right, it goes to drive, push P to go to park. In the hybrid version, you actually have a traditional gear lever. So that's something that distincts the hybrid from the plug-in hybrid and the electric model. I like the fact that there are actual hard buttons down here for the heated and ventilated seats. That's definitely a nice new addition. Heated steering wheel. And then on the PHEV, there's also an EV button here that allows you to cycle between an automatic mode, a hybrid mode, and a full electric mode. Right now, the vehicle is almost fully charged. It was showing 30 miles on a full charge earlier. Remember, the range is supposed to be 33. Now, over here on the center stack, I forgot to mention, this is just like on the EV6 and the Sportage. You can see, push this little button here, this like display changes from being able to adjust your radio and map to your climate, and then the dials also change. This is dual zone automatic climate control, and then you also have a volume and a tuning knob, which is really nice. Over here you can see this is where your cup holders are going to be found. You can see if you actually want, you can get rid of the cup holders, kind of give yourself a big storage area here, and then you just have to push this button and that brings the cup holders back. Open this up, you can see more storage here, a little bit more storage over there. Which is definitely nice. No lighted areas or no USB charging ports. This is a nice little padded area right here, which is good. And then above me, you can see you have LED map lighting, and then you have a standard sunroof here. This basically allows you to open it up in the traditional way. Sad that Kia doesn't offer a pano roof, but for those of you who just want to be able to open it, it is nice to be able to do that and then close this cover. So overall, the interior has most of the tech that people like. In fact, it actually has more tech than I expected. However, unlike the actual electric model, Kia does not offer, it looks like, a heads-up display on this version, but you can get that on the full electric version of this car. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the back seat of the Kia Niro plug-in hybrid. This is where Kia is very proud of the fact that you're going to find just under 40 inches of legroom back here. That's actually a couple inches more in theory on paper versus like something like a Toyota RAV4 hybrid. The floor, as you can see, is not completely flat back here. There's a little bit of a hump. You do have nice features like rear seat air vents, which is nice, 2 USB-C charging ports, and 2 storage pockets. You can see for somebody who's 5'7", I have a ton of space here to stretch out. There's some pretty good headroom as well. So for taller folks, this is going to have one of the bigger back seats. The materials back here, however, have been downgraded slightly versus the front. You have a hard touch plastic material. And then right here, you can see also just hard touch plastic. They don't actually cover this in like a faux leather material. At least Kia does give you 2 level heated seats back here, which is kind of nice. The seats, they don't recline at all. They just kind of fold down. There's an armrest that does fold down here and gives you 2 cup holders. And overall, for 2 people, this is going to be comfortable. For 3, it might be a little bit of a pinch, but again, you can't argue with the fact that this vehicle, considering how small it is on the outside, has a really big amount of interior space, especially in the back seat. All right, so here Rob and I are back in California, and we are behind the wheel of the completely redesigned 2023 Kia Niro. This one here, we're going to start it off in the hybrid. I'd say this is probably the volume selling version. I mean, Kia does almost 30,000 Niros in the US every year, and this is the model that's the most affordable. It's the least expensive. It's the model that also gets 53 mpg in the city, which is a really good number. Kia claims it's the best in class, although the class that they were comparing it to is like RAV4, which I compare this to something like a Prius. That's what the Niro was originally supposed to be. But this is designed to be more of like an affordable, economy-minded commuter car. So 139 horsepower, 195 foot-pounds of torque. The interesting thing about this car is it still uses a 6-speed dual clutch transmission. So instead of a CVT, it's got a stepped transmission with a dual clutch. Kia went with that route to make this car feel a little bit more, I guess, sporty. But let's go ahead and test out what we can get 0 to 60 wise in this vehicle. They said around 10.8 seconds, Rob. What do you think it's going to get?
Well, now that we've been in it for a minute, I'm saying 10.4.
All right, let's see what we can get. I'm just going to floor it here. I like how it shifts. It's definitely a more conventional feeling, but...
It doesn't feel like a DCT shift.
No, it shifts pretty slow. 9.59, so... Yeah, I mean, Kia said 10.8. They are clearly being conservative. And while
Battery's not full either.
Which, yeah, although I don't really think that's going to make a difference with a hybrid like this, just because you can't control the charge. The computer's going to do it anyways. It'll leave enough charge to give you that additional boost. But so we have a 1.6 liter 4-cylinder gasoline direct injection. That makes like around 100-ish horsepower on its own. And then it has a 32 kilowatt electric motor. We're going to hop into the plug-in hybrid later on. And that has roughly the same gas engine, but the electric motor has double the output, and it also has a much larger battery pack. This model doesn't allow for full electric-only range because it's just the conventional hybrid. The battery pack is only 1.32 kilowatt hours, so it's very minuscule compared to the 11 that you get in the plug-in hybrid. But I will say that the Niro drives pretty nice. This is built on their new N3 architecture. It's got a new fully independent suspension, so we have McPherson struts, multi-link in the back, big upgrade from the torsion beam in the previous generation, which again tended to feel like an economy car.
That felt like a good DCT shift.
Yeah, the DCT is interesting because they've tuned it to feel like a traditional stepped automatic. And I was expecting it to be a little bit quicker in its shifts, and it's not. It's just kind of a lazy shifting transmission. But you know what? Let's go ahead and see one more time. This time I'm going to brake torque it, and I'm just going to turn off the traction control, which doesn't really allow you to brake torque it, but hey, literally didn't even rev up the engine at all. I will say the gas engine is much smoother this year. The old one was just really buzzy. Okay, 10.03 seconds there. What did we get in the first run?
9.8 something? 9.4?
I think it was 9.59, but... so yes, this is not what I would call a very quick accelerating car, but you know what? I will go out on a limb here, Rob, and I'm going to say it feels way more enthusiastic than the HRV.
It does. Honestly, when we did the first acceleration test, that's what was in my mind, to think, okay, is this going to be slower than that? No.
Yeah, even like the HRV and the new CRV, I was kind of ragging on both, and I said they're consistently slow. Because they were like, the CRV with the turbo was around this speed as well.
The little battery boost really does a good job. It's exactly what it's supposed to do.
And that is exactly why, you know, it's kind of a missed opportunity that Honda didn't go electrified for the HRV. They should have done the same thing instead of just the naturally aspirated engine. But you know what? We're talking about the Niro here, and I don't know if I would consider the HRV competition. Kia didn't even really mention it, but this is definitely a unique car because when the Niro first came out, it was designed to be a Prius fighter, especially with all the different variants. Now, you know, the Prius, we have no idea what Toyota is going to do for the next generation. It's probably going to end up staying a sedan. We have no idea what they're going to go full electric as well. But for those of you who are looking for, you know, an economy-minded hatchback, something that sits up a little bit higher. I mean, I don't necessarily feel like I'm driving a crossover in this car. It has around 6 inches of ground clearance. The elevated seating position is somewhat there, but really the beauty about the Niro is if you're looking for a small, like, urban city vehicle that also can be driven out on the highway, the seats in this car, I'm noticing, are pretty comfortable. The ride is also comfortable. It's significantly more refined. I mean, especially when you look at the NVH, this new one here, I put my foot down, the engine doesn't vibrate everything like in the previous generation. I can feel the pedals vibrate, I can feel the floor vibrating. This just feels so much more muted, and it kind of gives you an impression that this is a much better built car. So I think that's what Kia did really well. Now in terms of sportiness, it doesn't feel super sporty. The steering is perfectly fine. The suspension's softly tuned. You can see Rob's kind of wiggling around as I do this.
Don't really hold you that well either.
Right, no, they don't really hold you. And you know, I do wish that Kia would have offered all-wheel drive on this car. It's kind of a missed opportunity, but they claim this is very popular in Europe, and it just, the customer there didn't really ask for all-wheel drive. And also, you guys saw there was really no wheel spin because it doesn't have enough power to do so. The plug-in hybrid, however, has like an extra 41 horsepower with this model, so I'll be curious to see what we get 0 to 60 wise in that vehicle. But I'll have to talk about fuel economy in real world when I have one of these to test. But I checked earlier, the trip computer was showing around 38 mpg, and keep in mind this is a very early pre-production car. It's been driven all day by lead-footed journalists doing 0 to 60 tests like we are. But yeah, going around some corners here, it's perfectly fine. I mean, this is a competent car that's going to be easy to drive around town, easy to drive out on the highway, easy to park. It has plenty of space. It's comfortable. It has amazing amounts of tech. I mean, I'm sitting here with the cooled seats and these synthetic leather seats, which are power adjustable with memory on this version as well. So plenty to like here, but let's go ahead and we'll hop into the plug-in hybrid because I want to see what we can get in that model with its additional 40-ish horsepower. All right, so we spent a little bit of time in the regular Niro hybrid, the HEV, and now Kia has tossed me the keys to the plug-in hybrid model. And I have to say, the plug-in hybrid to me probably represents the best of both worlds. I think this is the model that a lot of people are gonna pick if you can't decide. And the first thing I do wanna test out is the 0 to 60 performance. I have it in sport mode here. We'll brake torque it a little, which really didn't do anything. It's actually spitting out the front tires, which is kind of funny. 0 to 60 in 7.62 seconds. That is a 2-second improvement over the gas model, or versus the hybrid only version, which is pretty significant. The electric motor, like I said earlier, got a pretty big jump in power, which I think is going to be necessary for those of you, who are looking for a little bit better acceleration. The electric version is about a half a second faster 0 to 60 than this model, and that's kind of a big deal. Now, I want to switch it back over to eco mode here. I want to put the car into electric mode, and I want to test out if we can actually get up to 60 miles an hour in this mode. And you can't, because the gas engine actually comes on when you put your foot down, but we are still all going slightly more uphill this time, so 8.2 seconds there. That's with a 2% gradient here, 2% uphill. But overall, I'm impressed. The electric motor, the response of the electric motor in this model here is just much more immediate. It's much more noticeable. It's much more urgent. The one thing that surprised me though is we have almost a full charge here, and the vehicle seems to want to switch back to its hybrid mode when you put your foot down completely. Now that's normal, because if the car is demanding, if you're demanding the additional power, the electric motor may not have that power alone to actually get you up to those speeds. But put our foot down here. It's still in EV mode right now. You can actually feel it shift when you put your foot down, or when you're actually going through and speeding up. And there we go. I put my foot down a little bit harder at half throttle, and the engine did turn on there. So keep that in mind. This isn't in the sense like what you're going to find in like a RAV4 plug-in hybrid, where it allows you to go purely EV if you're trying to, if you have a full charge. This one here will still turn the gas engine on. That's something to keep in mind. And if I turn it to sport mode here, it'll switch automatically to hybrid mode. So you're only going to be able to utilize the actual pure EV electric mode if you have the vehicle in its eco setting. But 0 to 60 performance times aren't the point of a vehicle like this, and I think what's super satisfying about the plug-in hybrid is the fact that I'm driving, 40 miles an hour right now. I'm getting up to speed, driving just normally, and the gas engine's not coming on. That's the whole point of driving the PHEV model, is you have that flexibility to be able to drive it in pure EV mode if you need to around town, where you can also switch it to hybrid mode if you need the performance, and you get that boost in the 0 to 60 and the acceleration when you do have it in actual hybrid mode. Now, I'll have to wait until I get one of these back home for a full week to test to see how the range is in the real world. But overall, just like the regular hybrid, this is a really refined driving vehicle with its good ride quality, decent handling, steering feel. It's not a sporty car, but it's definitely a comfortable car, and it's a really easy car to drive on a daily basis. And I think that's kind of what Kia has done here. They were really going for just an easygoing drive, and they've definitely accomplished that with this model. I just think that between the hybrid and the PHEV, if you have the ability to plug in at home and drive, and you drive less than 30 miles a day, this is a very enticing proposition, and it's also one of the most affordable plug-in hybrid crossovers that you can buy currently today. So as the least expensive vehicle in Kia's new electrified lineup, the new Niro has a very important role in attracting younger buyers to the Kia brand, because remember, this car is designed to appeal to that younger buyer and then keep them within the Kia brand as they get older and need a larger vehicle. And after spending the day driving the all-new 2023 Niro hybrid and plug-in hybrid models, I'm pretty happy to say that everything that I liked about the previous generation has basically been addressed. I like the additional power that Kia has given us with the plug-in hybrid model. I also like how the hybrid itself is also a much smoother drive. The engine has better noise, vibration, and harshness control. And what really surprised me are just the level of features that Kia offers in the Niro. You have a ton of upscale touches like the power liftgate, the heated and ventilated seats, the Drive Wise package that comes standard, and then of course all the interior space that you get with this car. It's one of the reasons why the Niro has been such a success for Kia, because of its hatchback design, its slightly crossover-like looks, and just the elevated seating position. It should do well with a lot of buyers, especially for those who are on a budget. The only problem with the Niro is Kia still doesn't offer all-wheel drive, which I didn't really notice a problem driving all three variants, but for those of you who would prefer the all-weather traction, of course, there are other competitors that Kia offers, or that even Kia has within their lineup, but it's all, again, going to be at a price point. Because if you're looking to purchase these models, they are going on sale right as we're filming this vehicle, so they're going on sale this month, and the base hybrid version starts at around $26,500 for the base LX model. Now that's about a $2,000 increase versus the prior generation. The plug-in hybrid, Kia just announced pricing on that as of this filming. That starts at around $29,000 for the base version. This particular one here that I'm showing you are the SX with the touring package. The SX, of course, is at the top of the line. Touring package is another $2,000. This model here is around $35,000, and that model there is just under $40,000. Now keep in mind, there used to be a time where the plug-in used to qualify for the $7,500 federal tax credit. However, because the Niro is built in Korea, it no longer qualifies for that. So until Kia decides to move production to one of their North American facilities, you won't be able to take advantage of the tax credit there. But still, at around $35,000 for the hybrid or $39,000 for the plug-in hybrid, it represents a strong value for those of you who are looking for an efficient everyday commuter car that also happen to want some electrified only range. It's only about a $3,000 upcharge for the plug-in hybrid versus the hybrid. And after driving the two back-to-back, I'd have to say that if you guys want this car, the plug-in hybrid should definitely be at the very top of your list, as long as you have use for that extra electric-only range. Well, all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on both the Kia Niro hybrid and the plug-in hybrid model. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.